Hello there, world of tankers. Welcome to the channel. I'm your host, Blitz, and in today's video, I have some very interesting news, and that is the fact that the Strv 103V is going to be coming into World of Tanks Blitz as a researchable tech tree line. This is probably some of the craziest information we've had in a while. We can see it right here. Yes, developers announced the Strv 103. Kinda wild. Not only that, but apparently no hydropneumatic suspension will come with an alternate mechanic. You will not see them until Unreal Engine is released. Now that's interesting to me. I'm not really sure how Wargaming would make a mechanic for this vehicle that does not involve some sort of hydropneumatic suspension, because you'll notice the gun is mounted fixed to the hull. Normally, tank destroyers have a gun which can move up, down, right, and left. You know, we can look at that by taking a look at any tank destroyer in Tier 10. Look at, like, the E3, for example, right? The E3, it's mounted on a gimbal, so the gun can move up, down, you know, all over where you need it to. And all tanks can do that. They're all mounted on some sort of gimbal. We can see the Agpan 3100s like that. The grill is also able to move up and down, obviously. So all of the tanks in the game are usually mounted on some sort of gimbal design, where the mantlet's around a round piece of metal, and then the gun can freely move around so you can aim. But that's not the case for the Strv line. You can see that it's just a mounted gun. It's the equivalent of literally just gluing the gun onto the tank. There's no arc, there's no gun depression, no gun elevation, which means that there's definitely going to have to be some sort of hydropneumatic suspension. My guess, and this is what I've thought for a while, is that when you go into sniper mode, it is going to automatically enable the suspension. That's been my guess for a while. That way, it would make a lot of sense. You go into sniper mode, you look up, the gun goes up. You look down, the gun looks down. When you're out of sniper mode, then you drive faster. That would be the easiest way to implement some sort of hydropneumatic suspension into Blitz without technically having a button for it. Now, will that actually be the case? I don't know. I'm interested to see how Wargaming works around not adding hydropneumatic suspension. Now, I should mention that this is not the Strv in my garage. It is modeled on the Foch. I literally just downloaded a mod that puts the Strv in our game. But this is exactly what it's going to look like. Now, this is not the 103B. This is the Strv S1. But this will probably be released as well. Usually, you have the Tier 8 of a line, a premium, released before or right after a tech tree line is in the game itself. So we can expect that we're also going to be getting the Strv S1 maybe a little bit before or a little bit after the entire line is added into the game, which is kind of interesting. We can actually see the Strv here, and again, you can see how that gun is a fixed mount. It does not move up, it does not move down, it follows with the tank's suspension. And this is actually the Strv 103B here. So what are the characteristics of this vehicle? What can we expect it to play like when it is added into the game? Well, judging that we are waiting for Unreal Engine to be released before this vehicle is out, it's definitely going to have some sort of suspension. I don't fully agree with the news post on the fact that it won't. It's got to have some sort of dynamic suspension to allow it to be able to aim. You can see the way the hydropneumatic suspension works, and it's very simple. Essentially, you go into this thing called siege mode, you press the X key on your keyboard, and activate siege mode. And essentially what it does is the entire tank goes like this. So your gun is mounted on the front, and then your entire tank will move up, down, right, left, depending on where you look. So it's basically the equivalent of having a turret, which is obviously great, and it allows the Strv to be incredibly dangerous and, obviously, a very unique vehicle in the class. Now, some of the characteristics that you'll find with vehicles like this are the fact that it has basically the most accurate gun in the game. Leopard 1 step aside, the Strv's gun is even more accurate than a Leopard 1. Not only that, the vehicle features crazy levels of damage per minute on World of Tanks PC, sitting upwards of 4,000 to 5,000 if you're running it properly equipped. And that means we can expect in Blitz this thing to possibly be the next DPM king, because it doesn't have a lot of alpha. It's got 120mm on PC, and I can expect it to have a 120mm in Blitz. There's no way Wargaming's giving this thing 150mm. It's just not happening. So realistically, this tank's going to have around 400 damage per shot in Blitz, and it's going to feature a really, really quick rate of fire and really good camo values. And we can expect all this because it's not going to be a frontline tank. World of Tanks PC is a game designed for tank destroyers and passive gameplay. I can tell you that from first-hand experience. You can see just how much more positioning you have in a tank destroyer, like the Strv here gets the entire map to overlook. You do not get this capability in Blitz. Imagine having a tank destroyer perch like this in Blitz. It's just not a capability. But this is why it's going to be interesting to see how Wargaming manages to implement a tank like this into a game that is not necessarily meant for campy playing. You know, we have the Waffenträger Alpha 100 in Blitz, and it's terrible for most of the games you play because the maps are so small that the vehicle gets outspotted, outmaneuvered, and bled. But on World of Tanks PC, because the maps are larger, because you have more positioning and more spots to work, you can actually do well in the Waffenträger. And yes, it was removed from the game, but it is still available for certain periods of the month in rental games that people can get by participating in the last Waffenträger event. So it is actually still in World of Tanks PC. You just can't use it permanently in your garage. But does not take away from the fact that it does exist, and it does way better. And as I said, it's just the simple reasoning that the maps are larger. So I think the major challenge that I hope Wargaming really tries to tackle is balancing this tank in a way that it's going to be enjoyable in Blitz and not entirely overpowered. Now, by the way, the interesting thing about the Strv is that the armor is actually quite good. The upper plate on this vehicle is strong enough to get bounces from most 120mm guns. It only really takes 150mm to overmatch the armor, which is kind of wild. We can see a great example there, the 55A cutting right through it. The only spot you can pen this vehicle is either loading gold, then you can overmatch the roof, but you can also see that there is a gold absorbing bar on the front. It's got that little grate, and that will eat your shells. But not to mention as well, the armor on the tank's just pretty reliable in general. We can see here again a great example, Contracar Mark II bouncing the Strv. By the way, this thing is crazy suspension. We can see here that suspension working. Like, that is insane, the fact that you can work that ridgeline. But yes, you can definitely see how siege mode works. Now that this player has stepped out of siege mode, he's able to move up and use the tank normally. In general, this is a tank that I think all of us have been waiting a while for to hear the news on. You can see going back in the siege mode, and then the vehicle can start to aim in again. The tank's going to be very fun. Something else I should mention, which is interesting about the Strv, is the mobility. It reverses almost the same speed as it goes in top speed. So if the tank goes 50 kilometers per hour, it can also reverse at like 50 kilometers per hour. It's kind of insane, but it makes the vehicle very, very fun and also allows it to get out of situations super quickly. So yeah, I'm really excited for this. I think a lot of you guys are as well. And you can obviously let me know your personal feelings and opinions in the comment section down below. On other news that I figured I'd talk about, we have the next tech tree after the Rheinmetall Panzerwagen is possibly going to be a hybrid nation tech tree. I don't know what that means. Like, I know what it means, obviously, but I don't know what that means in terms of what tanks we're going to have added into the game. Right now, the vehicles that are listed as Hybrid Nation are pretty goofy. We got the Soul Eater, we got the Hafen, the Pharaoh. I mean, these are vehicles that are obviously completely unrealistic, like the ground tank. But because of that, realistically, it means that we can expect it's going to be a line of vehicles that maybe more resemble something like this, I would assume. You know, a close hodgepodge of vehicles that already exist in the game kind of merged together. That's kind of what I'm hoping. Maybe like what World of Tanks console does, where they get a bunch of different vehicles and they just combine them into one. We'll see. We'll see. But I'm excited. Hopefully enjoyed today's video, and if you'd like to see more content like this, please consider smashing that subscribe button down below. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.